Firstly, what did you take away from the statements he made in that press conference? It almost seemed like agenda setting, was actually agenda setting, but what did you take away from it?
I thought tariffs would go higher on his agenda, and I thought potentially we would have executive orders from him on trade signed, especially in the arena in front of his supporters. So I was a little surprised when that didn't happen, but I think Trump being Trump, he couldn't wait. And as soon as he had an opportunity to talk about tariffs again, he brought them up and immediately declared tariffs coming on February 1st for Canada and Mexico, and then right afterwards declared they might be coming on China for TikTok or who knows what other statements he might make.
That was interesting, right? The whole China tariff angle and linking it to TikTok. Did you see that coming?
No. I mean, yes and no. There is no explicit rationale for why we're going to use tariffs. They're an all-purpose tool for fentanyl, immigration, competitiveness issues. You don't believe what I say. Whatever it happens to be, we could use a tariff. And so in that sense, it's not unusual. But the linking of TikTok to tariffs, especially on China, is not something that was floated, as far as I'm aware, before today.
Yeah, exactly. And his exact line, verbatim, if I could read that, is that if we make a TikTok deal and China doesn't approve it, we could maybe put tariffs on China, which just, to me, was like, okay, how does that work?
I think it's a little unclear. Someone just wrote me and said, what are the statutes that you could use in order to make this happen?
Yeah.
And I mean, the answer is once you allow decisions to be taken at will, then it really doesn't matter what the statutes are. And a lot of them are very broad. So he could simply declare it's unfair trade, it's a national emergency, it's you pick your poison, and that could be the answer for why we need to have tariffs, and they need to be now.
Got it. Cedric?
Yeah, I think there's a big conversation around which powers will he use to enact which policies. So, for example, looking at IEEPA for emergency economic powers, for example, that hasn't been used in the past. So that's a big question. Nixon kind of did that in the 70s, but it could be a step too far. We don't know. But there is some element of using tariffs as an open-ended negotiating tool. And I think that's what Trump is saying. He said it when he said, look, we have a big trade deficit with Europe, and maybe we'll tariff them, but if they buy our energy, maybe we won't. So he's really laying out his philosophy, which is we want the rest of the world to pay their fair share for American goods without pay their fair share for defense, pay their fair share for international organizations like the WHO, etc. If not, the U.S. is not going to take part of that. And so Trump is trying to recalibrate global trade policy, global international institution policy in favor of the U.S.
But he wants energy supremacy. That's very clear.
Yes.
In a way which is disruptive for the markets, because you're talking about the White House issuing a statement saying they're going to be drilling in some 16 million acres in the Arctic.
Yes, I don't think that you're going to find coherence and consistency across a lot of Trump administration early moves. Over time, we may find a bit more consistency, but at the moment, partly because his own impulses go in different directions, partly because his incoming cabinet has different impulses, it's unclear how this will ultimately shake out. But I do think tariffs are coming, and I do think they're a valuable tool for Trump, but they're also a way for him to capture revenue. And given what is ahead of them in terms of tax cuts and other plans, they're going to need some kind of incoming revenue, even if the tariff numbers are too small to really offset tax cuts.